and yes, welcome to another episode of Scholar Chit Chat. I'm your host, Goodness Ide here for today's episode. And if you're interested in studying abroad and this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is Scholar Chit Chat podcast. Here we are committed to bringing you relevant information that will help you achieve your study abroad dream. And to our returning listeners, we are glad to have you back. And for this episode, we have a special guest, of course. For this episode, we're going to be going through writing the winning Queen Elizabeth Commonwealth essay. So I'm going to allow him, the greatest of all time, the Scholastica, to introduce himself. Hello, Kayode.
Hi. So thank you for this wonderful opportunity to be able to share my insight and my thought about this winning scholarship and essay precisely. Okay, so my name is Kayode Rahim. I won a scholar because of Queen Elizabeth scholarship, which I won in year 2020 thereabout. So currently, I'm doing my PhD in bioinformatics and STEM biology.
All right, thank you so much for that introduction. And I'm so excited doing this episode with you because currently we're having the Queen Elizabeth Commonwealth essays ongoing, and soon the application is going to be closed. So first of all, I want you to give a brief testimony of how intimidating and scary writing these essays can feel. Because I personally, I'm going to be also adding my own personal experience to it. When I started out writing an essay for the Swedish scholarship, right? It was quite funny because I had problems with sticking to the exact words. They would tell you not more than 100 words, not more than 200 words. And at times, you know how when writing, information, inspiration flows. So to be able to tailor and tame yourself to that particular word is quite difficult. And of course, I have you here, and that's why we want to also break this down on how to actually write the winning essays for this particular Queen Elizabeth Commonwealth scholarship. And of course, it could be used as a template or as a way to guide you in other essays if you're applying for other scholarships. So to you, Kayode, please could you testify how intimidating and scary writing these essays can feel? And I believe that at the end of this episode, our listeners will have a more chance to start off how and when did you hear about it is well known, like the Commonwealth. So when I heard about the Queen Elizabeth, okay, it's not that new to me, but in a way it sounds also new. So could you tell us about that?
All right. So that's a good question. I know that's one of the major challenge most students trying to apply for most of the scholarship, precisely what count needed. So what I did in my time was ideally my first draft was more like, I tried to put on my story writers in that regard. But what I tried to do at the end of the day was try to work down to do what is needed. So what I actually worked for me was I actually pay attention to the main concrete point needed for me to pass across in this essay writing precisely. So you don't have to write everything. You just have to write to what is actually right to write. What I mean, because there's some point needed for this committee needed to see your essay, and that was I worked towards because I tried to read other people's samples and I tried to do that as well to be able to work with that number of words in that point. And secondly, I want to make sure you go straight to the point. Like you don't need to start, bragging what is not necessary, because I see that most of my other mentees I try to mentor in this essay right now. So you want to make sure you actually point out the cogent point, the cogent evidence, the cogent example of your experience, because this essay is in a kind of structure essay that they give you what is needed. You need to follow that. And I would advise it's very, very advisable to stick with the word count. Yeah.
Thank you so much about that. Because what to speak from me is that we should really go straight to the point. I mean, a lot of people want to express a lot, write so many stories around that. But one of the key points is go straight to the point, make it cogent, give examples and evidence. And this will unleash us to go further into the essays particularly. And I'm sure you're going to guide us through this. So looking at the next question concerning this Queen Elizabeth Commonwealth Scholarship essay, how were you able to approach them strategically, right? Because they have several questions that you need to write tailored with the number of word count. So when you're tackling a particular question, what was going through your mind? What was the strategy you made use of, writing that, and you ended up sticking particularly to the word count?
All right, so that's a good question. So what I actually did is this. In the first start, my mind was totally blank, to be honest, so I didn't even know what to write. But I later work for me was to be able to go ahead and because in the essay you will mention they ask you to select you have some school in mind to apply to, right? So what I tried to do in the first instance was to go to the school, look at the program I want to apply to, what are the course I feel I could also choose why doing my master there. So this kind of playground for me to start writing on. That's one point. The other point when it comes to the aspect of the first part is plan of study, right? You want to make sure you understand the purpose of why you want to go for masters. That's a question. It's a good question for everyone to know. You can't start something without you not knowing why you want to start it. Once you're able to answer the question why, then you're able to write something good to that point. So what I did in my way was to look at, because my program was I did masters in bioinformatics, so I tried to look at parts where the questions regarding to my research of thought or my research of interest want to focus on. I tried to go deep in it to understand why some drug actually be resistant to some therapy. Why some cancer cells are being resistant to some drugs, right? So this kind of starting point for me to look. That's where I beat my storyline in, right? We want to show, why I want to go for this particular program just because of this my research interest. I don't just mention that I have to make a explainable explanation to that to be able to showcase my interest of why.
Okay, so from what you said now, I'm going to ask you this because you said when writing, particularly the why, the purpose of study for that particular research interest. Now, because I've seen where people would tell you, you need to go to the school, look at what they are into currently, that is the particular department, the different types or the various areas of research interest they are into, and try to see to tailor your essays around what they are doing at the present to give you that chances of you being accepted. I want you to give me a response. How effective is this? Because you personally, you have a research interest which you tailored and you wrote something on regarding why you want to pursue this in your masters. And yes, there are some, I don't want to call it a rumor or something that you need to debunk, but I just want you to give your own view. Do you feel, aside your own personal research interest, another way of somebody being able to answer the question why should be if they could go to what the department is doing currently and try to see if they could find a research interest there to write? Is that a good way of doing that?
That's a good thought and that's a good question to ask. So going down to the school of interest to get information is actually so the committee reviewing your application that he or she has done a diligent assignment. You want to stand out in your application, right? Because if you don't go to this school of interest, you won't know the information is needed, right? Let's take an example now. You want to apply to University of XYZ, right? And there are some specific courses, because in the essay you are actually there's a question asked like why do you want to do this university, why this and that. So if you don't go down to the university program, you might not know this, right? You want to even go down to the point that you want to mention some specific work of interest of some professors are doing there. That's one point. You want to go ahead also know what are the particular courses you intend taking for your program or for the problem you intend to solve, because this Commonwealth is meant to showcase or to expose students to what was an advanced knowledge of learning, right? You want to bring the knowledge back to your country. And you are telling your question that, there's a particular problem happening in my country and I want to address that. But you need some advanced training. That's the purpose of this, your master's, right? You want to go ahead and mention some specific courses you intend to take while you are there in that school. So mentioning this one or two courses, and don't just like listing. No, you don't do that in essay. You just list them. You need to tell why this particular course A, course B. If I took these courses, it's going to help me in this direction, or it's going to enhance my knowledge in this direction. So these are what they're actually looking for in your essay. By doing all this, it actually shows to the committee that this student or this applicant actually done a diligent assignment to do that. So our advice is a good point, because it's actually these are one of the key points to look out for. Thirdly, to add to that, going to this school about school what's called the school of interest of checking. You want to go to their voluntary activity ongoing in that school campus. You want to say you want to involve yourself because it's a kind of, we call it cultural exchange there, right? So because you need all these key points in your essay. Oh, why I'm in so university, I'll be involved in these XYZ activities, which I intend to contributing is also, I also bring the knowledge back to my own country. So all these key points actually make your essay to that. So in summary, going down to the school or checking the school website, programs, stuff like that will actually help he or she in his leadership application.
All right. Thank you so much for elaborating that, because I need to draw your attention. There are some people that they might have a strong interest in applying for a master's degree, but they really don't have a particular research interest. So how could they navigate that with somebody of no particular research interest but want to do their master's? Now, moving away from there, let's now look into the essays particularly. So regarding the Queen Elizabeth Commonwealth Scholarship, we could have a statement that says concerning the plan of study. So Queen Elizabeth Commonwealth Scholarship provides unique opportunities to study abroad for a master's in leading universities in low and middle income Commonwealth countries. Now, if your statement or the question your statement should answer the following question. Why have you chosen to study this particular course or this particular course? And what specific features of the course do you find interesting? What do you want to study at this university and in this country? What have you done to research your chosen university? And how is this course relevant to your future career plans? How can a candidate explain tackle this particular question? Explain how their previous studies and experiences to be suitable for this particular question. So, and with the word limit of 400 words, can you give us the initiative or the strategy or the key points on how a candidate should answer this question?
Right. So, it's actually been a point that most students need to pay attention to precisely based on the prompt question required. So first tip I would say is students to avoid the word listing. When I say list, for example, I did my bachelor in biochemistry, I took course maybe molecular biology, I took course about this my microbiology, stuff like that. You should avoid the word listing, because the question is actually asking you, why do you want to go for this particular course of interest, right? So your first opening sentence should be like what we call a hook. Like you tell the story in the form of storyline or a personal experience, why you intend of going for this particular course. So I break into 2 points. I know some people who might like, okay, I don't have research interest, I don't have research. Okay, fine. There should be a way, this should be a bit around that. And like, why do you want to go? Let's give an example again. I'll be giving a suggestion to my come from science background, so mostly if you hear me saying biochemistry, mathematics. So okay, so the point I want to raise was people in this category of have no research interest in mind. If that's actually fine, you can go ahead and write an essay in a way that, okay, maybe precisely, let's get for an example of mathematics, right? I know they don't have this kind of wet lab stuff, but they do some algorithm. That's a question. So, but there should be one of the key motivating points why you go ahead and study mathematics. That's what you should look out for. Why you choose that mathematics. How is it going to help you in person? How is it going to help the country you are coming from too in that regard? Because when you're able to marry these 2 points together, then your first opening sentence will actually go well in that point. And yeah, so they also mentioned what are the specific features. Okay, there are some courses you have taken along doing your undergrad. Mention those courses, but don't just mention them as I said. You mention and say the reason why those courses you have taken and how is it going to help you in your ongoing master program. That being said, and also go ahead and go down to the university website you're applying to. Check out any overlapping courses you see that you might actually take in the course of the program. Mention those ones and say how that's going to align with the problem you're trying to address or your personal experience you mention as an opening sentence to that. So now that's the point. That's point 1. Point 2 now, people that have what called the research interest or they have the word they want to go and study. So in that way, your own opening sentence will be basically be different. It can be like a problem, what we call a problem statement, right? So what problem are you trying to address? Which you're trying to, or what problem do you feel interested in? Or what's your curiosity about this particular area of interest? And how your master program intend going for, how it's going to help you or how it's going to train you to be able towards being well fit for that position to address that problem in your country. So all these points I just raised now actually build the part of this first plan of the plan of study. And so you have to make sure you have to be very careful in this regard. You don't leave out some cogent point, as I said earlier on. You want to mention somewhat some key point, and the key point I just mentioned now is that first point is mention the course you intend of going for. How is it going to align, or how is it going to train you for the program you're trying to address? Secondly, check the university program. Mention some specific courses they also have. How are they going to train you, or how are you going to benefit you in the course of the program too? You can also as well mention towards your future careers. Oh, okay, for instance, after studying this course of program after my 2 years program, I see myself pursuing PhD degree where I also continue in this line of research, not that I've get in this 1 or 2 courses. So you want to make sure you are actually cite some good example, because this actually make your essay stand out. You don't want to just mention, you want to be giving details about your point you are mentioning to that.
All right, and thank you so much for that. I like the fact that you're able to give 2 key facts for 2 categories of applicants: those with research interest and those yet with research interest. I won't want to iterate so much on that. Now let's move on to the next part of it. Regarding this essay, how were you able to stick to the particular words? You've made mention of, for instance, people that with research interest, it should be like a problem statement, what to address, what problem you want to address, or what your curiosity is on, and how this program will help or train them to address this problem in your country, and as well mentioning their future careers. So in this part, can you just give the nugget on how a candidate can basically manage or stick to within the 400 words in particular?
All right, that's a good question. So the way I do mine, and I try to for other mentees as well, you want to make sure you organize. All right. So now the question asks more than I think what the question prompt being stated on the essay. I think if we're able to count maybe roughly 5 or 6, right? You want to make sure you cover this point logically, right? You in that way you able to what I do advise your first writing, you could try to express yourself, try to write everything you thought you could write, because your first draft is actually the point where people actually write every bit of details, and that's good. So your second drafting, third draft, even to the fifth one, then you have to concisely write that what count needed. Right. So my suggestion is that firstly, stay organized with your writing. Make sure your opening sentence to the last point is well organized to that point, and make sure as well all the necessary point needed. For example, you want to make sure you also talk about the university you want to apply to. So this is what I try to tell people. In that point, when you're talking about the university, why you choose the university, why you choose those courses, you shouldn't be more than maximum, or let me not put the word maximum, but in the range of 3 to 4 sentences in that regard. So each sentence is actually what we call have a main point. Then the following sentence will be like a supporting point. So in that way, you are making your writing so easy to understand. And you actually mention the main point or the main key factors addressing these questions. So if I were the applicant, if I was maybe if I opportunity to write that, or not even say opportunity, but if I want to write that again, this way I would have done that, and which I've advised people who have done it and work for them. I want to make sure each question I'm trying to address, at least I have 4 to 5 sentences attending that question. And I want to make sure my first sentence will be my main point, right? This following sentence will be an additional point I'm trying to support what I mentioned in that 4 sentences. So by the time you have this point, you're able to cover, at least give a overall explanation or a overall answer to the question what's needed. By the time you have all this together, you will even have less than 400, even close to 400 at that point. So that way I would advise anyone trying to do that. Right now, want to make sure that you are organized. One, first point. The second point is that make sure you address all the questions, all the prompt questions asked from you in this essay. And thirdly, make sure each question at least we have 4 to 5 sentences. And each sentence has a main point, additional point, an example to that. So this will make your essay strong enough or competitive against other people applying to get that program.
Thank you. When you made mention of main points, I wanted to ask you that did you actually study the English language in your first degree? That was very lighthearted because
I know.
I studied I studied English, and one of the ways we write, because English is all about writing, right? So
Yeah.
particularly in Nigeria, I don't know how it
Mm-hmm.
works in other countries. So one way we were taught is each of your essays, because we write our answers in essays, essay format. We have, as well as you made mention, the main point followed by the supporting sentences, then backing it up with an example or illustration. So when you made mention of that, you took me back to my classroom where my lecturer was explaining. I was like, I need to ask you, really, did you study the English language? That shows that in an essay format, there are a little bit of structure, but not really rigid per se, but just to each or individual dynamics of how you want to write it, right? But basically, there should be the main point and the supporting sentence. But I want to ask, from what you've mentioned, if you were to rewrite this particular question or this essay, is this how you're going to do that, or what do you think is going to have to?
Yeah, that's a good question and a thought, a good thought. So I would have done better now is citing one example in my essay, right? I want to be able to show the reviewer or the committee that I've actually done this and this is why I want to go for this program. And why I say citing example is that after I mentioned my main point, I keep on saying point because it's like you have to, because when they are reviewing your essay, they want to be able to figure out, okay, what he or she has mentioned, the key takeaway from this essay. So that's why I feel I could have done that right now. I will have had more examples to my essay in that regard to be able to show that I want this scholarship, I merit it. So in that way, to got that short. So I would have done more better adding more examples right now, because then when I was writing I was just writing, okay, based on my interest, why I want to do this, why I want to do that. But I didn't actually add more examples to what I thought.
All right. Okay, thank you so much. Now let's move to statement 2, which is regarding the development impact and post-study outreach. So regarding this particular scholarship, where students are committed to creating change in their communities, it says that scholars will be supported to develop their knowledge and skills and learn how to apply them in their career so they can contribute towards solutions to global challenges and the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Now, your statement should answer the following questions. Describe briefly one challenge or problem in your country that you would like to address. How will your proposed study help you to contribute a solution to this challenge? That's 2. 3. What skills do you expect to gain from this scholarship? How you will apply shared knowledge and skills gained on award with your local community. And lastly, the wider Commonwealth when you return home. And this should be written in 500 words. So for this essay, what is the best way to approach writing your response?
So the best way to do that is you want to make sure whatever you're program addressing should be one of the SDG goal points, like UN Sustainable Goals, at least one. So you want to make sure this essay actually cover or give that the relevancy or the overlapping or how it's being related to the SDG goals, because that's a major key point you're looking at from this part of this writing. So you want to make sure that you actually mention at least one of the SDG goals in your essay at this statement.
Okay. Any other additional points or strategy towards that?
Okay. So the other point I could also add to that is that because by the time they're asking you, okay, describe one or two challenge or problem in your country, right? So you want to make sure your essay are logically flowing. What do I mean by that? Because don't forget, all statement 1, statement 2, statement 3, they still come as a complete essay. So whatever the point you mention as a first instance, your first statement, should be able to align with problem you're trying to mention in your statement 2. Okay, you don't want to mention, I want to go for mathematics in your points, and you come down mentioning something different from that in your problem. So you want to make sure that problem you're mentioning actually align with it course you mentioned and how it's being relevant to it, and how that course intent of taking will make you train you to be able to address the key question problem you mentioned. And lastly, you want to also look at the common or recent or the most disturbing problem in your country that you tend to address with this course of program. Actually, you might not have one, but actually give a statistics. Okay, take a statistics of the problem. Okay, you want to let them know how serious that problem is. is and how you see this going for this particular program will put you in the right position for this particular program you've mentioned. Because by the time you put statistics, they will understand that, oh, this is how serious it is. Okay, so addition to that, and that comes to my mind, after you also, they intend for a long-term goals, right? So you want to keep that point in at this point that, okay, after my program in this social university, I will come back to my country, either you volunteering or either you collaborating. You want to mention what your long-term goals, why completing that program. You're going to consider when you return to your country. That's the main point you also mentioned.
Thank you so much for this insight. I'm also learning from more what you've been saying so far, and I'm jotting, right? I'm going to show you my jotting later. So for this statement, to just wrap it off, right? How can one choose a specific program in your country? Let's say for instance in Nigeria, we have so many wahala, right? And you're not the first person that will be addressing that particular situation, right? So it could be a lot of people that come into that particular field to say, okay, this is what they want to have. But how can you make yours very distinct and unique from every other person who had shown interest in that particular problem in your country?
Right, that's a good question. So now, as I said, every country has their own challenge, problem, that you don't want to shy away from the part what we mentioned, because they are more key to this point of the SDG goals, the sustainable goals, right? You want to go down. The first thing I would advise for anyone, you should go down to the website of this SDG and look out for, I don't know the total number right now, but look at all this number, all this SDG available. Check individually. I think there's one wellness, and I couldn't figure that, but I know there's the one related to we have even one of food security, one from climate change. So you want to go down to this website and check. So by the time you check, you do your assignment, you're able to know how disturbing this challenge is around the world or besides in your country. Google is also your best friend to check the statistics. These are major points you want to mention in your essay. Because by the time you do that, that will actually make your essay stand out compared to other ones, because you actually understand the reason why you choose this problem. You're not just choosing for choosing sake. You're not just choosing because what they are saying right in my country now. No, you are choosing it because the statistics is showing that this main area that most scientists or most research should go towards or should try to start addressing. So by the time you show the statistic and give your numbers to that, and don't just give the numbers, actually explain what has been done, and what yet to be done, and the problem you're trying to address in your country.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Now let's move on to the next question. So, before that, what advice would you give someone struggling to connect their course to impact, right? So, maybe we have someone or there's someone there who at the beginning does not have a particular research interest, but along the line did a little bit of research concerning, going through the SDG goals, using Google to go through the current problem, not just in their own country, but even around the world. Now, what advice would you give such person in a way to connect this problem or to connect their cause to impact? How can the person do that? What would you advise the person?
This is straightforward answer to this. So how you can even connect that? I will advise the person to any problem you're mentioning. Try to see all the courses you took in the time. If you can even be in your undergrad, maybe there's one overlapping course, maybe one of the course or the one they taught in class that you feel, this actually has a connection to the problem you're trying to address. What I would say is, don't just based on what you see or what you had, try to do your assignment. It can even be because you are even intent of going for your master's if you don't have anyone in mind. Check the school website. There are some curriculum or curricula in some university. They also give details based on these courses, how this course is going to help you in your future career. So you can also get some key points from that part as well to be able to see, because there's some mention, and when they mention some problem. Maybe after this course you'll be XYZ in so organization or so industry or so education. So by the time you read this content, you might get some insight to that.
Okay, that's a well spoken response to that question. Now let's move to the next aspect of the essay, which focuses on creating networks, right? That is embracing new cultures, learning different perspectives like that, and collaboration. So, and the question says that explain how you develop professional networks. Now, this can be through academic studies, hobbies, work experience, volunteering involvement in social, cultural, and Commonwealth organizations. How have you used these networks or connections that you have developed to achieve something? What did you achieve, or how you could have developed these connections further during your international study experience? How can our applicants or applicants in general, tackle this or best show their leadership or collaboration skills as a follow-up question to this?
So that, I would say, now we're in the era of networking, so we can't do away with that networking. So to address this question in good ways, you want to start from the point, maybe right from your undergrad. You might be in one or two activities back in your school days. So you have to show your leadership role or your volunteer activities or your teamwork. You can maybe be in your lab. Let's give an example. You might be in the lab you work in. For those that work in the lab that maybe do research, you might be in your group, 3 or 4 people work on the same particular project but different topics, right? You can showcase how you guys work together to be able to address one or two key points, or how you guys work together to be able to maybe work on particular experiments or some Rouse model or stuff like that. So you are showing what the team spirit work in that aspect. Okay, you don't just tell, you show. What I say, when you don't tell, I was supporting to work in this group of 5 people where we study. No, you show it. What do you do? What's your impact at that point of time? That's an example. For those maybe struggling out, they can be able to see, okay, you have involved. You can even go down to your people, maybe religion setting, either Muslim, Christian, or whatever the other stuff is. Maybe you have involved in other activities, organizing events, whatever program or church or Muslim or Mokstar. So you can also cite an example to that aspect. You also go ahead for people that may be in your community. Just think, your community may be 1 or 2 events hosting your community that you have involved yourself. All right, show what you do, what was the admiration you achieved in your time being there. So these are how you can be able to address this part to that. Importantly, you want to also give a future goal. Okay, I'll be going to social university, and I will see myself join this particular social group. Don't just say you join. What are you going to intend to bring to that? So when you do all this, it showed you what you are trying to create a network skills that. You can also go ahead and to make, let's give an example, probably setting an international group for students to have a connection with the university lecturers over there. So you can be like, I'll setting up a group where I see myself organizing event where we'll be able to invite some lecturers to come and give some key talk about how. So you can just give an example like that. So you are showing what your leadership skills. You are showing how you're going to build some networking avenue in a new environment you intend to see yourself to. So this I would say or suggest for anyone doing that. So if to what you intend to do, give an example.
Okay, I have a question to this from my own little experience, right? Where you made mention of showing your skills, that is leadership or teamwork, and you made a statement that you could use their religious setting, their community, group work, lab or experience. Let's say, for instance, I want to give you a scenario where a person studied a science work, like any science related course to be, let's say for instance, mechanical engineering, right? And the person indulged in his own community something related to the art, like poetry, because I've known some science students to be very good in some art related niche, like writing of stories and writing of poems, poetry. A situation where an applicant who wants to apply for this studied, let's say, mechanical engineering or chemical engineering, but did some community activities as leading and curating a poetry kind of fair where people come to showcase their skills, their creativity skills. Mind you could correct me, please. I learned that whatever thing you are writing in your scholarship, that is to show your leadership skills or your teamwork, it should relate to your course of study. I don't know how of essence that is. So in a situation of this particular applicant having this, that, studied a science course, but during the community volunteering stuff, every volunteering experience was related to the creativity aspect of art. How can this person put this in place?
All right. So that's a good thought. So what I would say is that based on what I said earlier and what you're trying out to clarify your doubt and to answer that clearly. So particularly to this essay, so every scholarship has instructions what is needed. Okay, why it mentions other activities that are not related to your program or your course of study? you can actually mention in this particular essay. Why do I say that? If you let us speak together in the question they asked, that you explain how you have developed a professional network, right? And they say it can be through your academic study, it can be your hobbies, it can be your work experience, it can be your voluntary. So in this way, they give you room to mention, if it's not related to your program. Because now the main point for you to understand is that they are looking, how are you building the network? How are you building your network community? So because you are going to a new environment, right? You want to make sure that you're present there. You don't just be there just for study. You want to bring something new perspective to that environment. Okay, let me give an example. I will say this. Once you won the scholarship, there's a kind of report we do every month. Not every month, every 6 months. So what does this report entails? There's a section that also asks that what activities have you engaged in while you are here? Okay, so in that way, they want to know, because you're not just mentioning all this now. They will expect you, because later on, you need to show it that, okay, I've done this. This is what I've done in the time past. For example, me, my experience when I was there, I think I went to this local community where I tried to, this not even beyond my academy, what I try to engage myself in their cultural exchange. I try to build network with people, in local peoples, right? Because part of it, and I write it in my report, there was a good a good comment to that, because this is what they expect to see, all right? Based on this scholarship precisely. Every scholarship has their requirements. Okay, so in this person case, let's say this person now, for example, he doesn't have any of these academic leadership, academic volunteer, but he or she is being, as I said, now maybe is good in art, is good in painting. You can put that in. And not just put that in, tell us your achievement, why you're doing that painting. As your painting help people, as what's your storyline, what's achievement have you achieved from that? Or you are one of the people that organize this painting in small community. Show it. Give some, not even evidence, give examples. Okay, so this actually sell well. It actually go well with a good essay, because when they see all these things, to bring to your point, most applicants might not able to do this because they want to make everything academic. No, there are some other activities they involve themselves in, and it's well good to hear. They want to see all these activities, because when you go to this new environment, all this will be happening. So we want to also engage yourself in doing that. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for bringing that out. All right. So I will want to ask, do you want to read any essay or statement, just like a scramble, just to see how it goes, just to see the flow or the logic in organization?
Okay, so I will just read some. I might not read the entire essay, but just to give how this person did why he was writing. So let me start with the part of the statement one where he talk about plan of study. So this guy, he mentioned that, okay, I have always had the passion for biological science, and this has led me to pursue BSc biology, specializing in microbiology at XYZ University. Okay, during my internship or my studentship, I study modules such as molecular biology, chemistry, immunology, so which endow me with a solid foundation. I've also acquired skills in data analysis, report writing, presentation, through biostatistics, research method, and models. Undertaking a solo project on the enterobacteria. This experience has formed my desire to pursue a biological science at XYZ University. Okay, so this person go ahead and mention how this experience was and what he had achieved during his course time. He said, beside my academic accomplishment, I have acquired training on molecular biology. He mentioned techniques such as PCR, gene expert, DNA, and RNA extraction. By working in these both research and clinical laboratories, I also worked at the Center of Excellence, that's an adult Center of Excellence, where I developed interest in biomedical research and field of medical biology. Through my collaboration, I work on a novel coronavirus study, population-based and age stratification, so epidemiology protocol for COVID-19 viruses. So most aim was to determine the prevalence of the SARS-CoV-2 infection among the outpatient department attendings, health workers, and households, and the risk factor associated with this SARS-CoV-2 infection. I was involved in the rigorous laboratory testing of this COVID-19 and gained skills in multiplex PR and DNA and RNA extraction. Expand my skill in the data analysis. Okay, so just got that there. So this person tries to mention some key experience he or she has gained from this part, and how it contributed in the course of the project he mentioned. Okay, move ahead and mention, we're still on that plan of study. He mentioned the university he intends of going to. He says Sri Lanka is a culturally diverse country with a supportive community and well-established education system. I believe I will learn from the best professors, researchers in this field. I look forward to networking for future collaborations. University of Columbus has excellent reputation for research and development academics and rank fourth in the Sri Lanka metrics. Getting quality and transformative education from this prestigious institution will be an honor for me and my family and country at large. Alright, so this person mentioned how this country intends on going for a master's, how it's going to help him in his course program.
Just to make everything short, that from what you said, I want to just pinpoint and just pick any of the statements to be the last statement where there was the main sentence, like an example of the main sentence, then this is the example of the supporting sentence.
Alright, cool. I got it. Okay, let me give an example of this so this is statement 2, where the question is being asked, what particular problem you want to choose or why you are choosing that problem. And I said earlier on, try to mention some statistics in what you are writing. So for this person, he tried and mentioned, infectious disease such as tuberculosis has a negative bearing, right, on the socio-economic problem of this country. So he mentioned what is the problem. Then he go ahead and mentioned how that is related to his own country. Now, he said Zambia, a well-resourced limited country, has one of the highest TB incident rates in the world, which is exacerbated by the emergence of multi-drug resistant strain. Estimate of the prevalence of this DLTB are 2.8% among the new cases, 14.1% among the previous treated cases, with a treatment success rate of 45%, which is below the global average. So if you can see at this next point he mentioned, firstly he mentioned the problem, right? He talked about briefly about it. The second point, he gave us the statistics, how that problem is actually rearranging his own country, what he has been done and what is yet to be done. So he said that, despite the available drugs, they still now, if you let me put that point again, he said 14.1% among the previously treated cases, which means that there are already been treated cases, but still, it's still below the global average. Alright, so let's move to the next point. He said, where he now give us the gap. Okay, he said, despite the enormous efforts to prevent this drug-resistant infection, Zambia's capacity to control this outbreak is constrained due to scarcity of experts, support the research, limited resources, inadequate drug surveillance system, and poor health infrastructures. Alright, so now at this point, he gave us despite all the attempt to curtail this disease, but still, there's still a lack of some expertise, some research. So now, where does he have to come into now? He mentioned at Cozy Point, said, now my desire is to pursue a career in this particular research, which will allow me to contribute to the advancement of healthcare through the research, public awareness, and partnership. So if we could understand this essay part now, where he mentioned the problem, you see his statement is well flowed. Firstly, he mentioned the problem. He gave us statistics. Move on to tell us what's done, what's yet to be done, and what, if nothing being done, what's likely to happen. He mentioned that. Then he closed the part and say, how is it going to contribute to this problem he mentioned? So this is what they are expecting anyone writing that say. Okay, yeah, roughly he mentioned it was some courses he intended to take and how that's going to help him. And he mentioned the long time ago, I said earlier on, about how after completing this study, what he intends to do. He said, I plan to rejoin the Center for Infectious Diseases in Zambia, where I'll play a critical role in drug resistant research and awareness debates. So that's a good point. So he mentioned his long time goal there. And he also mentioned how other activities he intends of joining while he dumped his own country. So you want to make sure you also mentioned that. He said, I intend to engage in several AMR awareness campaigns with various organizations. He mentioned that. And that's the Ministry of Health, Young Antimicrobial Resistant Ambassador of Zambia, which you want to make sure that any organization you are mentioning, make sure it's out there for people to verify. Okay, you don't just give information that is not verifiable. I want to mention that. And he also go ahead and share his experience that this will enable me to share my experience he has gotten doing his course of program masters. How he's going to implement that into his own community. All right, so let's move down to the third point. Because of our time, sorry. That's creating a network. Okay, so the first point he mentioned here, as I told you guys, like in the first instance, you can go ahead and talk about what you do in your undergrad. So for this person, he said in 2019, shortly after graduating from his university, I volunteer at Metro Level 1 Hospital Laboratory Department in Zambia, where they have a shortage of qualified staff. Through this program, I have opportunity to work with colleagues. Then go ahead and say, for example, I work with Dr. XYZ, which was at the Ministry of Health, who inspired me to. So the example he kind of state here, I don't see the writing is so good at this point, but what he's trying to mention is that after he finished from his university, he was joined a laboratory where he contributed with the expertise. So that's what he's showing, what his networking skill set there. And let me see. All right, so let me add this. He said, also mentioned in terms of working with some professors in the school in terms of going to how is going to organize some community for international students to start having a good relationship with this professor, to share their problem, to guide them, to invite them for talk, stuff like that. So these are what they expect you to mention in your essay. All right.
Thank you so much for that expository essay and really giving us how to go about essay writing. I mean, all even the statement questions and how to answer. And lastly, before we wrap up this conversation, this podcast, I want you to every applicant who are still carrying on their applications, those who are still yet to start the application but having in mind to start, what advice will you give considering the Queen Elizabeth Commonwealth Scholarship? I'm sure it's not a scholarship that they pick a handful, not really so many people. It's a scholarship where there's a tight competition. So what advice will you give to applicants who are applying for this scholarship?
Okay, yeah. So my honest advice for anyone, firstly, you don't want to assume that you know how to write best, right? Make sure you actually give someone to go through what you have written so far. Okay, that really help a lot. This scholarship is very competitive. I think after maybe in my time when they apply, more than 5,000 apply across the country. The police select maybe below 20 something number or 27. You can see how crazy that number is, right? So what I would advise is that make sure that after everything, whatever I've written, allow on one or two people to go through it for you and give you honest feedback on your essay, because you might not see what others might see in your essay and give it to that. That's the other advice, that make sure you keep to the word count is very, very important. Because even though you don't even keep to because when you're inputting the information in those boxes, because those boxes are being programmed away that if you go beyond that word, you're able to submit that. Make sure you do word count too. And also, I think they also require some letter of recommendation. If I don't know if that's applicable up to now. Make sure you have that on time and submit as well. And based on what we have said earlier on, make sure you address those key points. And so with that, I think you should be good. So I wish everyone applying best of luck.
Thank you so much, Kayode, for sharing your insights and experiences with us, and even giving us the practical way of going about writing essays, because some people might actually be stuck that they could never even continue the application. But I'm so certain with these insights you've given us, and if they do their due diligence to listen to it, they'll have gotten a solution in writing their essays. And I'm so glad to be able to honor this invite and also share your own knowledge. It's also a way of also impacting people around you, and that's a way of you giving back as well to the society. I'm so grateful for you coming and to give your insight. And yes, to our listeners, we hope this episode has really broken down the process for you. If you have more questions or any other aspects of scholarship applications, reach out to us on Scholarship Chat. You can find us on LinkedIn, YouTube, X, on Instagram. And also remember, these essays are your opportunity to tell your story, be authentic. Please don't use AI. Be passionate and show the scholarship committee, rather, why you deserve this opportunity. Don't forget to subscribe to our scholarship chat channels or social media handles, and for more tips and insights into securing your dream scholarship. Thank you so much, Coyote, for joining us on this segment and this podcast. And that brings us to the end of this episode. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did, as I did personally, because I really jotted a lot of things. And until next time, keep striving, stay inspired, and avoid